on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 5th of August 2025. Motion passed. Parliament passes motion to remove Deshabandhu Tennakon from the post of IGP. 177 votes in favour, none opposed. Final decision now rests with the President. Coverage capped. Insurance coverage for MPs capped at 250,000 rupees. Cabinet spokesperson says move to abolish MP pensions is expected soon. Public inquiry. PUCSL launches a public inquiry into the February 9 island-wide power outage allegedly caused by a monkey. Security assured. No threat to national security despite rising gang violence, assures Defence Secretary.
Men are the tools.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatyara Nayaka, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. The motion to remove the suspended IGP Deshabandhu Tennakon from the position of Inspector General of Police was adopted today by Parliament with a majority vote. 177 members of Parliament voted in favour, with none opposing the motion. As the next procedural step, the resolution will be submitted to the President, who is expected to formally remove Tennakon from office.
Suspended Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Tennakon, who was placed under remand custody over the shooting which took place near the W15 hotel in Veligama, Matara on December 31st of 2023, was later granted bail. In light of multiple allegations of misconduct brought against Tennakon, the Speaker of Parliament appointed a special 3-member committee to examine the charges and consider his removal from the post of IGP. The committee was chaired by incumbent Chief Justice Preeti Padman Surasena. The committee concluded its inquiry and officially submitted its findings to the Speaker on the 22nd of July. The report held Tennakon accountable for misconduct and firmly recommended his dismissal from office. Meanwhile, Parliament convened today to debate the contents and implications of the report.
පොලිස්පති TMW දේශපන්දු තෙන්නකොන් මහතා පොලිස්පති ධූරයෙන් ඉවත් කිරීම පිණිස වූ යෝජනා සම්මතය යෝජනා මම ඉදිරිපත් කරමි.
The Special 3-member committee established under Section 17 of the Removal of Officers Act No. 5 of 2002 has found Tennakon guilty of all but 4 of the 23 allegations against him. Additional Solicitor General Dilip Piris emphasized that Tennakon is not even fit to hold the position of a police constable. He has been implicated in several high-profile and controversial cases in the country. In testimony concerning the murder of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra, Dominda Silva's driver stated that Tennakon was seen a mere 150 meters away from the location of this shooting. Despite a Supreme Court verdict identifying him as an individual who aided and abetted stripping and cruel, inhumane and degrading treatment of individuals, he was nevertheless appointed as IGP, an appointment reportedly endorsed by the then President. At the time of the incident, Tennakon served as the officer in charge of the Nugegoda division. While serving as IGP, over 40 court cases have been filed against him, naming Deshabandhu Tennakon as a suspect. We have no issue with the removal of IGP Tennakon from office. The SJB concurs with that decision. Previously, both opposition leaders Sajid Premadasa and Kabir Hashim voted against his appointment. When the then government appointed him to office unlawfully, we filed a restraining order against Tennakon before the Supreme Court. Subsequently, he was removed from office. However, there were 3 JVP MPs in the opposition at the time, but no one stood against this matter. The JVP often initiated legal action against various matters, but not this one. What is the reason behind this? The incumbent president is well aware of this reason. No legal action was initiated as there were undisclosed political arrangements and mutual understandings at play. There was clear political backing for many of Deshabandhu Tennakon's actions. But why is no one speaking about that? It is abundantly clear that both the Wickramasinghe and Gotabaya Rajapaksa administrations extended political protection to Deshabandhu Tennakon. After the general elections, Ranil Wickramasinghe was removed from parliament by the will of the people. Today, Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa no longer play active roles in politics. So, what does this signify? The general public have already taken decisive action by rejecting the political forces that empowered Tennukon and sent them home. The Rajapaksa regime provided political cover for Deshabandhu Tennukon, who is alleged to have played a role in several killings carried out under their watch. Tennukon is viewed as an integral figure in the criminal apparatus that was entrenched during the Rajapaksa's rule. We approved the government's decision to appoint this special committee to investigate Tennukon's misconduct. When his removal from office is being discussed at the moment, we have always maintained a consistent stance.
Following the conclusion of the debate, voting commenced at approximately 4:15 p.m.
කරු මන්ත්‍රීවරුනි දැන් ඡන්දය දීම ආරම්භ කරන්න.
The motion calling for the removal of Deshabandhu Tennukon from the position of IGP was carried with 177 votes in favour. Not a single member of parliament voted against the motion. The only abstention came from independent MP Ramanathan Archana, representing the Jaffna district.
පොලිස්පති TMW දේශපන්දු තෙන්නකොන් මහතා පොලිස්පති ධූරයෙන් ඉවත් කිරීම පිණිස වූ යෝජනා සම්මතය බහුතරයක් මන්ත්‍රීවරයන්ගේ ඡන්දයෙන් සම්මත වූ බව මෙම සභාවට දන්වනු කැමැත්තෙමි.
With the motion officially adopted by a clear majority in Parliament, it will now be presented to President Anura Dissanayake, who is constitutionally empowered to remove Deshabandhu Tennukon from the post of IGP.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Minister of Urban Development, Construction and Housing Anura Karunatilaka revealed in Parliament today that funds from the Presidential Fund have been allocated for the foreign university education of children, relatives and associates of former presidents and parliamentarians. He assured that action will be taken following a full investigation into the matter.
The member's question was regarding whether the President's Fund has been used to finance the foreign university education of children, relatives and close associates of presidents, ministers and parliamentarians after the year 2005. The answer is yes. Such allocations have indeed been made, and I would like to share a few examples with you. In 2005, former Member of Parliament Sarath Chandra Rajakaruna, representing the Gampaha district, received funding through the President's Fund for his son Harshana Supun Rajakaruna to pursue higher education abroad. In 2006, former MP Karunasena Kodituaku from the Colombo district facilitated a similar scholarship for IN Kodituaku, believed to be a child or relative. That same year, former MP B. Radhakrishnan secured a scholarship for K. Radhakrishnan. Also in 2006, Dinesh Doramgada was awarded a scholarship through this fund based on political connection. Furthermore, in 2006, K.K. Paranavitana was also granted a scholarship under the same scheme. We have previously discussed the misuse of the President's Fund in Parliament. Once again, names have been mentioned today, including some individuals who are present here. Will the government take necessary steps to recover the misused funds without delay? That is my first side question. We will look into whether there was any form of contract in place when these scholarships were awarded. Based on the findings of that investigation, we will take the necessary steps moving forward. Has the committee been formed to conduct investigations regarding the 323 containers that were released without inspection by customs? How many members does the committee comprise? What are their names and positions? What's the purview of the committee? Did the committee submit a report following the conclusion of the investigation? If so, what was it submitted? How many committee members have signed the report and who are they? As the Minister of Finance, it was the President who appointed the committee. Therefore, we will forward these questions to the Ministry of Finance and provide you with answers.
The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the reduction of the insurance coverage limit for members of Parliament. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa announced that insurance benefits for MPs will be capped at 250,000 rupees effective from the insurance year commencing October 9th. During today's Cabinet briefing, the Minister also stated that steps are being taken to abolish the pensions granted to parliamentarians.
When insuring members of parliament, they are insured collectively. Previously, each MP was received with insurance coverage worth 1 million rupees, which is still in effect. However, during his budget speech, the president announced that this amount would be reduced to 250,000 rupees. At the time of the announcement, the annual insurance had already been renewed. Therefore, when it is renewed again this year, the coverage will be reduced to 250,000 rupees.
ඊටම සම්බන්ධව එමෙතුමා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේ විශ්‍රාම වැටුප අහෝසි කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු හිටපු මන්ත්‍රීවරු විවිධ අදහස් පළ කිරීම සිදු කරගෙන යනවා මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් උල්ලංඝනය වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා නීතියට යන්නත් සූදානම්ෙන් ඉන්නවා ආණ්ඩුව මේ සඳහා කොහොමද මුහුණදියත් වෙන්නේ ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයට.
Those who wish to go to the Supreme Court are free to do so. Similarly, those who want to go to the Geneva are also entitled to do so. After their return, we will provide an expense report on those who travel to Geneva. This is a decision that has been approved by Parliament and relevant parliamentary committees. Therefore, we will implement it during the next renewal of insurance policies.
හොඳයි මම කියන්නේ රට වෙනුවෙන් නැතත් තමන්ගේ පෙන්ෂන් එක වෙනුවෙන් හරි ජීවිත පරිත්‍යාග කරනවා නම් ඉතින් අපි බලමු මේවා ඉතිහාසගත වේවි.
That is their choice. If someone is willing to risk their life over a pension rather than for the country, it will be historic indeed. As for MPs affiliated with the JVP, they cannot object to this since our political platform has always been on abolishing these privileges. We are now formalizing the legal framework necessary to do so after coming into power.
විශ්‍රාම වැටුපෙන් ජීවත් වෙන සමහර මන්ත්‍රීවරු ඉන්නවා. ඒ අයට ඒ කියන්නේ අවංකව සොයා බැලීමක් කරලා ඒ විදිහේ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය අය සම්බන්ධයෙන් යම්කිසි විකල්ප යෝජනාවක් තියනවද?
ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම් කාර්යාල මගින්
Provincial officers are currently conducting surveys on the living conditions of all citizens. MPs who genuinely have no means of livelihood can also apply for these welfare benefits. If reasonable justifications are provided, we will consider appropriate action. However, so far no such cases have been officially reported. Those applying will need to submit accurate income statements, and based on this we will decide how to proceed.
අපට පේන්නේ මේක බැලු බැලමට නිකන් පලිගන්න විදිහේ චේතනාවකින් මේ යෝජනාව ගෙනාවා වගේ ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න හදනවා වගේ කියලා.
කිසිම පලිගැනීමක් නැහැ.
There's no such intention. This decision is not motivated by revenge but is consistent with our long-standing policy stance.
ඊශ්‍රායලට ෆ්‍රී විසා ලබා දීමේ පිටුපස විදේශ අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ඉහළ පුටුවල ඉන්න අය රජයට බලපෑම් කර ඇති බව පොතක් වාර්තා වෙනවා. මෙතනම මේ රජයේ තීන්දුවක් නෙමෙයිද රජයට බලපෑමක් තියනවාද මේ ෆ්‍රී විසා ලබා දීමට ඊශ්‍රායලයට?
නෑ. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්
No, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs prepared a document assessing tourist arrivals and the revenue generated from each country. Based on these criteria, the decision was taken. No special treatment has been given to any country.
ආරුගම්බේ ප්‍රදේශයේ බලනකොට ඊශ්‍රායල කොලොනියක් වගේ. ඒ ඉන්න අපේ බිස්නස් කරන කට්ටියටත් ලොකු බලපෑමක් තියෙන බව ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා. හැබැයි එළියට අවිල්ලා කතා කරන්න බයයි කියලාත් සමහර අය කියනවා. ඒතකොට දැන් මේ අපේ ස්වාධීනත්වයටත් ස්වෛරීභාවයටත් මේ හීබ්‍රු භාෂාව දාගෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ බිස්නස් කටයුතු වල නිරත වෙන එක කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ.
Currently, there are 241 foreign operator service establishments in Arugambe. These are regulated under existing legal frameworks.
න්‍යාමනය වෙන්නේ මේවා නවත්ත ගන්න බැරි තැනට ආවම ඇයි මේක මීට කලින් කරගන්න බැරි?
විදේශ සංචාරකයන් වශයෙන්
A tourist on a visitor visa cannot legally operate businesses in Sri Lanka. We will take actions against such violations. While there are claims of many Israelis operating businesses, our investigations show that workshop is often registered under Sri Lankans, enabling tourists to run them informally for financial gain.
චපාත් මධ්‍යස්ථාන තියෙනවා ලංකාවේ. පෞගේ දවසක අගමැතිතුමියත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කිව්වා අනවශ්‍ය ඉදිකිරීම් කියලා ඒවා. එකක් දෙකක් හැර. ඒතර පොලිසියෙන් ඒවට ආරක්ෂාව ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
පොලිසියෙන් ඒකට
Police security is not specifically for this establishment but for tourist safety. For example, in Arugambe, Israel tourists gather primarily on Fridays. Large tourist gatherings require security to prevent any untoward incidents.
එකක් ඒ පැමිණෙන සංචාරකයන්
We provide protection for all tourists regardless of nationality through the Triforces and police. The increase in Israeli tourists as with visitors from other countries necessitates our responsibility to ensure their safety without any preferential treatment.
නැවල සංචාරකින්ගේ පැමිණීම වර්ධනය වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සමගම රටට ලැබුණු ඩොලර් ආදායම් සම්බන්ධයෙන් පරස්පර සංඛ්‍යාලේඛන ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් නිවැරදි සංඛ්‍යාලේඛන මොනවද කියලා ඔබතුමාගෙන් දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
2020 මේ වෙනකොට
In the first 6 months of 2025, Sri Lanka earned $1.7 billion from tourism. Meanwhile, foreign worker remittances recorded by Ministry of Foreign Employment during the same period totaled $3.7 billion.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම අපාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
The Cabinet of Ministers gave the green light to formulate a national policy and action plan on reconciliation and coexistence for 2025 through 2029. Meanwhile, the Cabinet also approved the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between the Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology and the University of Illinois on collaboration in genetics research. With that, let's take a look at more of these and other Cabinet decisions taken during the week.
A group of enterprises engaged in the import or manufacture of oils, oleoresins and residue for re-export complying with the approved methodologies were given the approved enterprise status by the Board of Investment. Thereby, Cabinet approved the awarding of approved enterprise status to Stay Naturals Private Limited, Voyager Naturals Private Limited, Plant Lipids Lanka Private Limited and HDDES Extracts Private Limited. Meanwhile, a new delimitation committee is to be appointed to review the recommendations of delimitation committees appointed in 2012 and 2021. Though a delimitation committee was appointed in 2012 to establish and revise divisional secretariat divisions and Gramaniladari divisions, while the other committee was appointed in 2021, only a few of the recommendations of said committees have been implemented so far. Sri Lanka is expected to see the formulation of a national policy and action plan on reconciliation and coexistence for 2025 to 2029. Thereby, an interministerial task force will be appointed comprising representatives from related ministries and line entities, while technical, logistical, financial and administrative support will be acquired by the United Nations office in Sri Lanka. A memorandum of understanding is expected to be signed between the Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology and the University of Illinois. The MOU will facilitate numerous activities and programs such as development of human resource for genetic research and exchange programs for postgraduate students and staff. The Colombo Central Bus Stand in Petta is expected to be developed and modernized under the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. The development project will be conducted with funds totaling 425 million rupees with the support of the Sri Lanka Air Force, the Colombo Municipal Council, the Ceylon Electricity Board, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, the Road Development Authority and the Urban Development Authority. The Ceylon Fishery Harbours Corporation is expected to secure a new sand dredger with the objective of utilizing the said machine to conduct necessary repairs and development projects under the corporation.
President Anuruddha Dissanayake says the main objective of the upcoming budget is to innovate and modernize the public service. He made these remarks today while addressing the 41st annual conference of the Sri Lanka Administrative Services Association.
The 41st Annual Conference of the Sri Lanka Administrative Services Association was held today at Temple Trees under the patronage of President Anuruddha Dissanayake and Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
Can we be satisfied with the current state of our country? Human nature tends to become accustomed to habits and hesitant to experiment. Yet the very foundation of human civilization has been built on our willingness to experiment and embrace change. Therefore, I urge you to adapt to new changes. I make this request from what can only be described as a state in ruin, both physically and spiritually. Many state employees are well aware of this. Even the vehicles you use are over a decade old and the computers and softwares are outdated. This reflects the physical decline of the state. To transform the public sector, we have allocated funds in the upcoming budget to modernize and digitize our systems. Accelerating the digitization process will be a key step in this transformation. However, our ingrained habits remain a barrier to change. We must work collectively and openly towards modernization in the state sector. To support this, we provide the highest basic salary increment in recent history and will provide another increment in January, requiring an additional 110 billion rupees. A further 110 billion rupees will be needed for the increments planned for 2027. Why are we doing this? Because we understand that to make the state sector attractive and competitive, we must make its salaries attractive. We will deliver on that commitment.
Welcome back to First at 9. Taking you to more local news, the Public Utilities Commission today conducted a public hearing on the island-wide power outage on February 9th. An island-wide power outage occurred on February 9th due to an emergency in the transmission system at the CEB's Panudura grid substation. At the time, Energy Minister Kumaru Jayakodi stated that the outage was caused by a monkey interfering with the transmission system, a comment that received wide coverage in foreign media. However, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka decided to reinvestigate the incident, expressing dissatisfaction with the reports submitted by the CEB. Accordingly, today's public hearing commenced at 8:30 a.m. at the BMICH. During the hearing, CEB officials on duty at the time of the outage gave statements. The instability caused by high rooftop solar power generation during low demand periods was also discussed. It was further revealed that while there were adequate electrical engineers present in the system control room in Batramulla during the breakdown, there remains a severe shortage of engineers required to efficiently operate several departments of the CEB. Taking it to business news, the Colombo bourse closed in the red today as a result of price losses in counters such as John Keel's Holdings, Melstaco and DFCC Bank. The all-share price index declined 0.34% to close at 19,718 points, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 ended 0.47% lower to close at 5,830.29 points. Market turnover crossed 3.3 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreign investors closing as net sellers offloading shares worth 145 million rupees. Now let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. US President Donald Trump has again threatened to raise tariffs on Indian goods, accusing New Delhi of profiting from Russian oil while ignoring the war in Ukraine. In a social media post, Trump said India buys massive amounts of Russian oil and resells it for profit, vowing to substantially increase tariffs unless purchases stop. India called the threat unjustified and promised to safeguard its economic interests. Despite pressure, India says it will continue buying Russian oil, citing long-standing ties with Moscow and domestic needs. Indian officials also slammed the US and EU for double standards, pointing out both still trade with Russia, including US uranium imports and record EU LNG purchases. Both ruling and opposition parties in India united in rejecting Trump's criticism. Welcome back. In more local news, Defence Secretary Air Vice Marshal Sampath Wiyakonda assures that there is no direct threat to national security from the recent increase in gang violence. Speaking to the media, the Defence Secretary claimed that the criminal underworld is in turmoil due to the lack of political protection.
The official handover ceremony of 400 million rupees worth of humanitarian aid provided to Sri Lanka by the Republic of China was held today at the Disaster Management Centre under the patronage of the Chinese Ambassador and the Secretary and the Secretary of Defence.
With a specific item determined based on the needs expressed by the Sri Lanka side, such as satellite, meteorological image sharing, disaster early warning, and disaster prevention and mitigation.
Following the ceremony, the Defence Secretary answered questions raised by journalists.
පාතාලය කියන්නේ ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට කෙලිම සම්බන්ධ එකක් නෙමෙයි. ඒක මහජන ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් පාලනය කරනවා. පොලිසියට අවශ්‍ය කරන සහයෝගය සීමාවන් ඇතුළත අපි ලබා දෙනවා. 100%ම විශ්වාසයි ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව අනුතරක් නැහැ. ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට අනුතරක් නැහැ. දැන්ටම පාතාලය කැළඹිලා තියෙනවා. මොන වගේ වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් තියෙනවද පාතාලය සම්පූර්ණ ඉවරක්? පාතාලය වැඩ නැති වෙන වැඩ පිළිවෙල තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ. ඒක ඉදිරියට යනකොට ඕගලන්ට දකින්න ලැබෙයි කොහොමද? වෙඩිපත්තු වෙන්නේ පාතාල දේශපාලන රැකවරණ
නැති හින්දාද?
ඔව් ඒකත් හේතුවක්. පාතාලය ඇතුලේ කැළඹීම් සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ඔවුන්ට බාධා ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා වෙඩිපත් වීම සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඉතින් එහෙම තමයි.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.